Our glass. All right. So here is my take on this week's discussions. Science is important. Scientific communication is important. Scientific communication is basically just communication, but in a specialized format. All right. Um, you probably are thinking in terms of journals and science, like introduction, methods, data, uh, and then conclusions, like discussion and conclusions. Well, that's one form of scientific communication. Scientific communication can also just be in terms of emails or letters or newspaper articles. That's all scientific communication to some extent because as a scientist and as a professional, regardless of what your career is, you're going to have to learn how to do something called code switching. So, code switching is basically being able to talk about a topic at different levels. So, how you talk about why the sky is blue, for example, to a 5-year-old is different than how you talk about why the sky is blue to a high school student, or to a college student, or to a physicist when physicists are talking. That's all why the sky is blue, same topic, but how you talk about that topic is going to change. And that's called code switching, which is one of the things that you have to learn how to do eventually. Okay, but all of those are scientific communication. All right, so that's sort of why scientific communication is important because it helps us spread knowledge at the end of the day. Okay, it helps scientists spread knowledge and it helps people learn better. So next up, how can how can we better understand the world around us? Well, science basically is a set of tools to help us learn about the world around us. All right, it's essentially just a set of steps, and by following them, we're able to make sure that when we go back, like, hey, wait, what if I made a mistake over here on this particular step? By following the scientific method, you're able to understand, like, oh, okay, this part didn't work. I'm going to go back and fix it. All right. So and it all helps you understand the world around you. You're going to get a better sense of your own position in your sense of place by understanding what's happening there. And you're going to get a better appreciation for it. In terms of challenges, well, if we don't understand the science, if we don't understand the basics of how the world works, as well as how what we're doing impacts the world and how the world works impacts us, we're in danger of, well, causing more problems for ourselves. Okay? For example, an extreme example, we're all driving really gas-guzzly old cars, all right? And they're spewing a lot of pollution. And this area that we're in, all the pollution just sort of sits there. It's not really going anywhere. Especially Phoenix, you're kind of in a bowl. So people start getting sick from the bad air and the bad water, all right? You say, oh, how do we keep people from getting sick? Maybe it has something to do with the air and water. I know, a great solution. We're going to make everybody drive even more gas-guzzly cars. Is that a good solution? Probably not, because that's just going to increase the amount of pollution and increase the amount of people that are getting hurt. So that's why scientific inquiry is important, and understanding that, oh yeah, well, maybe if the stuff that we're putting in the air is causing our sickness, look, maybe if we tone it down, then people will be less sick. Okay, so that's how scientific inquiry can help us understand our challenges. I'm sorry for the sirens back there. Now, life in the big city, right? So the other part that's important, and something that I really want you all to realize, is borders are a human construct for most part. The end of Mesa and the end of Phoenix, the border of Phoenix, that's just a human concept. Your pollution and the things that you do over there don't end there. Downwind is New Mexico, all right? Your stuff flows into New Mexico, and downwind is Texas and Oklahoma, okay? There's a connection between all of those. So what you do impacts downwind, and what, for example, California does impacts you all, okay? That's just going this way. That's going west to east. The U.S. doesn't exist in isolation either, okay? So remember that we're all part of a very small planet, and I want you to start to realize that we've got to start thinking on a global scale, because what we do on one end is impacting people on the other side, and as well, what happens over there impacts us. Okay, so that's one of the reasons why I want you all to sort of start. It's one of the things that I want you all to start looking at and thinking about, and that's how one of the ways that scientific communication can help us, because we can all start communicating like, oh wait, Chernobyl probably wasn't a great thing, okay, or yeah, because it actually ended up impacting a large part of Europe, but there was poor communication in the beginning. So, next up, last one, flows. I'm going to let you all tackle this one, but think energy flow and material flow. Just think about how the connection. So, for example, it's been raining. We just had some rains here. It rains the mountains, and it all goes downhill, but that water that runs down the mountains, it carries other materials with it, and it ends up somewhere. In this case, it ends up in the ocean, okay? And we eventually have brown water warnings, which means that they've found stuff in the ocean that probably shouldn't be there, more than likely from too much, well, we've got some issues over here with some of our plants, our wastewater treatment plants, so they tend to kind of leak occasionally, but that's a Hawaii thing. But just think about the way that the energy of that water, as well as the materials of that water, flow in an area. That's just one example. The sun, there's another good example. Think about what the sun is doing in your neighborhood and how the sun impacts trees, or watering, what that does. So be creative with this one, okay? Have some fun. Again, mentally explore your area, okay? And get to better understand it. Think about the way things are connected to each other. All right? Cheers.